What is up, everybody? So this is a bit of a different video here, I think. Um, I guess different in that I only have really one other video with commentary. So how different can it be? Um, Really what I wanted to do, this is the first VR multiplayer sortie that I have done on the Kola map. And I just wanted to see in general how it ran with a bunch of real players out, lots of things exploding, lots of things kind of happening, and I apologize for the background noise. There's things going on behind me. But essentially, so this is in the 4YA, I believe it's one of the European servers because it's the only one that's running the Kola map. I have the graphic settings pretty much maxed out. I have SSAO and SSLR, is that correct? I have both of those on. I've got, I believe, pretty much all of the sliders all the way to the right. I locked the headset in at 45 FPS. So I kept the little FPS counter running up in the top left corner, and I noticed that it would drop on the ground sometimes into the 20s. It would rebound fairly quickly back up into the high 30s, and then I got back up to around that 45 FPS mark as I was coming back into land. So this video is less about what actually happened and more about just the gameplay in general and what the map is like on a server, because it's obviously big, and how do multiplayer environments run on it, how close are the targets, what are your options, things like that. So one thing that I noticed fairly quickly is that when you take off, you are pretty much in the middle of it, and I believe that would be because of the limited air bases right now. I will pop up here in a minute on my way back, and you'll be able to see where I am as far as airbase wise. I'm still not good at recognizing them, and I did not do my due diligence before I jumped in here to start recording this to actually note where I was taking off from. But more or less, there were two potential targets right within 20-ish miles of me. So I took some harms. Like I said, this is not how I would normally fly something like this. But I just wanted to go out, shoot something, blow something up, get back, land, and then just kind of take a look at how it ran and what the gameplay was like. And I'm going to do a video on this fairly soon, what I'm doing right here, but essentially the video is called How to Use Your Hornet as a Giant HTS Pod, kind of. Because that's one of the places I think the Hornet kind of falls short in DCS, is its ability to actually locate and give you some sort of distance indication between you and a SAM site, so you have like ranging information. So anyway, there was a little SAM site out here at another airbase I believe we were attempting to capture. So I threw 4 harms, a targeting pod, an AIM-120, and some 9Xs in a bag, a centerline bag, and took off knowing that I was going right here. This is waypoint 9, I believe, which is really close to where I started. So you can see I'm about 30 miles out. Still, frames are fine. It's not smooth necessarily, and I think that that's kind of one of the big takeaways is right now, if you get good VR performance in like a single player or a fairly low action environment, if you get good VR performance there, you're going to get okay VR performance in a multiplayer server, at least for me. And I have a 13900K, a 4090, and a MetaQuest 3 headset. And it just doesn't look super sharp, I guess. And I think part of that probably is the fact that the map is, until you get into the mountainous regions, is really green. It's hard to differentiate between things. It's hard to really tell, kind of like get your bearings, because a lot of things look the same, and I'm not familiar with this terrain. I've not actually flown over it in a real plane, jet or otherwise. So a lot of that is going to be on me, and this is my personal kind of review of it. But anyway, so looking through the pod at where these harms, the sensor on the harm is picking up this SA-19 and a search radar is right out here at the waypoint, which is kind of where I figured that it was going to be. So I knew that I had some not friendly guys coming in. I believe it was a MiG-25. So I just cycled between the search radar and the actual launcher itself, and just let all of the harms go right at this one target. Because again, not really trying to play any strategy here. I just kind of knew more or less that I wanted to see if I could blow something up and then get back. As it turns out, when I turned in, there was a MiG-25. Trackwall scan picked it up immediately. He shot at me. As soon as I shot at him, I started dumping chaff and flare, not knowing what he shot, and ditching towards the ground, just checking the SA page to make sure that there was I was not ditching down into something else I didn't want to. And I killed him. Whatever he shot at me, lost track, or went for chaff, flare, whichever. And I'm guessing that's going to be some sort of Sparrow equivalent. So once he was gone, I really didn't have to worry about that missile too much. And then kind of came out of here and started trying to find my way back. I had dumped the 120 and 4 harms, and just checking on the harms to see if they were actually going to find a target. And they did. One of the 4 actually ended up grabbing something up there at the base. I believe I get a little bit of footage of it coming in. And I tried to call into to where I actually spawned in on the map, and ATC, the wonderful DCS ATC, told me to go to alternate. There's another point for this map. When it says go to alternate, there we go, I hit the SA-19 there. When it says go to alternate, your alternates, if you're in a jet, are a long way away. If you're in a helicopter, you've got some FARPs and things like that, but the alternates are really not an option. So here's where I needed to check and see. I could not remember where I'd actually spawned in, so I thought I'm just going to scroll down through the list while I'm flying, figure out where I spawned in. Nope, can't find myself, not sure where. So finally, super genius that I am, decided that I was just going to click on the F18 so I could see, and that would narrow it down a little bit for me. So looked here, found myself Kimi Tori. Is that Kimi Tori? I'm not sure how to say that. Or Torio. Anyway, this is where the ATC told me to go to alternate, and so I did actually look for an alternate, thinking that maybe this was just too congested, and so DCS AI ATC was thinking that I'm going to kill somebody coming in, but I did not, as you'll see here in a minute. I actually originally thought that this was my SAM my harm coming in, but I'm assuming that it was not, because I didn't get any BDA there, so that was someone else's. Anyway, I know this is kind of a rushed commentary and probably not super useful, but just for those of you wondering, how does this look in a multiplayer environment? How does it play? It's okay. It's okay. There's a long way to go between point A and point B, as far as if you're wanting to actually take off, ingress, put warheads on foreheads, and then land at a different airbase. You got a long way to go, and unless you're in the mountains, you got a whole lot of green to look at on the way, and you don't have a whole lot of places to run and hide, kind of like what you saw with that MiG-25. If I hadn't killed him, I couldn't ditch anywhere. I couldn't get into a crevice, into even behind a city, to kind of create some ground clutter and whatever. It's just going to be it's going to be your skill versus their skill, and that's pretty much it. So I see in certain scenarios, this could be really cool. If you're flying like a Vigan, taking off from a road base, you're actually replaying some historical scenarios or really realistic situations. I think this could be a whole lot of fun. But at the same time, it can be a little maybe monotonous, I would say, to get from one target to the next. So I'm looking for a different airbase, still looking at the frames. There's still, once you're up in the air, even with a lot of stuff going on, I mean, I'm not dropping too much below like the 37, 38 FPS, and I used to think, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But when you take into account you're on a multiplayer server on a map that is really not optimized for VR, you've got a lot of things going on. I'm in the US, so I'm in North America. This server is not in North America, so my ping is pretty high. And I have settings cranked up, pixel density cranked up, all of that good stuff. So it's not terrible, but it's certainly not as smooth as something like Syria, which I think is more or less the pinnacle of like VR optimization right now, as far as I'm concerned. I can lock it at 45 FPS on Syria and max out everything, fly next to the ground, blow stuff up. I don't think I get a single stutter there, and I don't have any motion projection on or anything like that. Good job. I just use the Oculus Tray tool to lock the 45 hertz or 45 FPS in to give me some headroom. So all in all, I don't know if right now this will be a multiplayer map that I frequent too often, which is no knock on Orbix. I think that they are very talented, as has been seen in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I also, you can see that kind of when you get into the more mountainous terrain. The shadows and the textures, I've heard people say that they're painted on, doesn't look that great. I disagree. I think they look really good, and I think there is some really unique terrain with the with what looks like to be like mining operations and things, where you've got these big chasms in the ground with little towns and villages that are built up right next to it. I actually think that that's pretty cool. And as more and more of the map gets fleshed out, I think that it's going to be I think it's going to be a good one. Like I said, for specific scenarios and situations especially. I love the Vigan. That's my, if not my favorite, one of my favorite modules in DCS. That is until the F4, which is, I hear, just 2 weeks away, if you guys have not heard. But anyway, so coming into land here, wanted to look at FPS as well, as I kind of came up and over this little city here, a little town. Really didn't lose a whole lot as I came over, flying low level and slow. It seemed to stay pretty steady. I mean, obviously when you're coming in on final, frame drops are a scary thing at this point, but didn't really have any, so I was able to put it down pretty smooth for the most part. Again, kind of a hurried session, as our air defenses are letting some rip at some guys trying to come in. At first I thought, did we lose this base and I'm now landing and I'm going to get shot as I'm coming in, but looks like they were just trying to protect me as I came down. So anyway, yeah, not didn't seem to really hurt too much as far as FPS goes. Once down on the ground, I realized that my cropping this video has cut out a lot of the information about the FPS, but if you want to trust me on this one, it stayed between about 35 and 45 with the occasional drop, especially when I started down into the 25, 26. But when you 45 FPS for me is super smooth in VR, so I don't really chase frames. It's more about visuals and just smooth frame time. So anyway, sorry for the ramble, lots of talking here. It's kind of my overall thoughts the first time in a multiplayer server on the new Kola map. Thanks, guys.